In this programming session, I'm going to work on my CSS framework Moss for the first time in a VOD. Moss currently is a zero dependency library that just has some CSS files, but it's going to change a lot in the future. I'm actually looking at today, not on camera, but I'm looking at Uno CSS as a potential engine to drive it. I don't think that it's going to be close enough to Tailwind for me to fully replace it with Tailwind as maybe like an opinionated preset for Tailwind. So the future of it's a little unknown. Today, what we're going to do is just add 2 new colors to the color set. So that's what our task is. Pretty simple, but what it'll do is kind of give us an overview of how a lot of the stuff works in Moss. And as we add 2 colors, there'll be like a lot of other things to change. And so it will give like a good sort of intro, also to refresh myself because it's been a minute since I worked on the project. So I'm going to just load up here in VS Code. We have Moss. And I think what I'll do is start by just using my normal workflow. And I don't edit these videos. So for those of you who might be interested in these longer form videos, this is what you get. If you want a more polished sort of educational take on web development, I have a main channel, Web Dev Ladder without the underscore VODs, you can also check out. There's also a Discord if you want to get involved there. So Moss, which is actually, we can just go to the website really fast just to see it because this is my first video on it. Moss is just, again, it's a CSS framework. It can be used with any website. It just has one main style sheet, but currently what I'm doing is I keep adding new style utilities to that, so it's extremely unoptimized. That's where I'm talking about Uno CSS would be a way to generate styles on demand. We'll see. I'm going to investigate to see if I should have Moss depend on Uno CSS. So in other words, Moss would become a preset. Moss also supports theming, but for true, like the full system for theming, that's what Fuzz. Fuzz is a UI library that depends on Moss. And so that's what this library would actually help you with. Oh, this style right here, you can see this is like the width here is not, kind of goes off screen. You see that? I'm going to fix that another time. All right. So I'm usually not used to zooming in so much on these screens. All right, so let's take a look at the library. Again, yeah, the zooming is a little off right here, so I'm going to zoom out just once because I scaled my my entire window in Windows, so that's what we're seeing. All right, so Moss basically, it looks like I have. Let's go to auto, so it goes to dark mode. What we're doing today is going to look at the colors. You can see actually there's 3 different systems that I have documented: the theming system, the variable system. So Moss is really based on CSS custom properties, which makes it different than, say, Tailwind. The CSS reset for it, for example, uses style variables throughout. The way variables work, and there's documentation for this, but basically a single variable can have either light or dark or both values, so that you can have variables are sort of the more primitive that you're building with. And color schemes are then separated from themes. Color scheme meaning dark or light mode. These are built into the browser as a color scheme. The CSS color scheme is different than themes. Themes are actually just a collection of variables. So anyway, I don't need to explain everything. The docs are all here. They're not all great, but there's at least a lot more that I'll need to explain today. So we're just actually going to go what I was saying about classes too, I'll just show you this really fast since I'm here. Classes are just like CSS classes, kind of like Tailwind, utility classes, and some others like component classes that have like, more, a little bit more semantics to it than just like a one-to-one mapping. So anyway, that's what these are. Another time, another video for that. What we're worrying about today is colors. So I have some documentation about how the color system works. You can see here what we have is 7 different colors. And the goal for today is to add 2 new colors. I'm actually just going to add them to the end here. So we're going to add color I and H following G. And we're not going to rename existing colors, but I probably will do a pass where I rename all the colors across all my projects so that it makes a little bit more sense. So today we're actually just going to add, you can see there might be, you might have noticed that there's no, well, so it's a little bit complicated, but this is actually a brown. If we go down here where the colors are actually used, I really wanted more sort of organic color palette. So I made sure to have a brown in there. So brown is actually more tinted, like an orange hue. We're also going to, though, add a true orange. So this is, you can see it's brown. We're actually going to add a true orange. You might have noticed that colors are named after just letters of the alphabet. The reason for this is that I want users of this system to be able to redefine variables and redefine the semantics of those variables. So having like color red is a very poor name in semantically for a variable, because then if you're using color red in places, well then how do you know if you want to change that color red in your theme to say blue or pink, well then now it says color red and now you're confused. So it's just all the colors are named with just letters of the alphabet, totally arbitrary. They can be, renamed as needed. For example, red, which is often called danger, or error, which are actually semantically two completely different things, is just C in this system. Now we will probably again rename these colors so the letters will change. I'll do that separately in a totally different, probably not in a VOD because I don't think it will be very interesting to watch, but basically like H and I is the task to add today. You can see it just ends with G. So E, F, G, H, I is being added. So that's our goal. We're going to be looking at this page in our development environment and making sure we just have these new colors that we're going to add documented. So I'm going to be thinking through this as I go. So you're just going to see my thought process as I sort of refresh myself to how this whole system works. I have a lot of projects. Moss is just one super low level piece that provides a CSS reset, which we can see here. And you can see here, like I use style variables throughout my CSS reset. This is one of the things that sets it apart from, say, Tailwind, which is not fundamentally based on CSS properties, CSS custom properties, which we extend them in Moss, calling them style variables. And they have, again, the semantics of a style variable can define values differently for light and dark mode. And that's important for reasons you can read the docs about. All right, so yeah, you can see just like these variables are used throughout the reset, which is very different than how most resets work. Okay, so what we're gonna do then, and actually some of these could probably be moved out of the reset and put into components. So I'm gonna leave a note about that. To do, maybe move these to style components or a different CSS file, question mark. So the final shipped CSS file is actually just style.css. This is a concatenation of these other 4 CSS files. So you can imagine adding a 5th CSS file that includes things like these like button color semantic names. So like we have button, and then you can add .color, A to it, and that turns it into a red button. And so not just on this colors page, we're also going to make sure on our buttons page, see how these are all added as colors, these colored buttons. We're also going to make sure color I and color H and I show up here, right? There might be a few others in here. I'm just going to quickly run through. I think the one, this is a little bit bugged in terms of layout. So borders, we have this. I'm actually going to make some notes. Let's get started by just making a new branch. I'm going to say add to colors, and then we're going to push that up. I'm going to add a change set. So I'm going to say grow change set. This is going to be a minor change. Yeah, let's go ahead and make it a minor change, which is breaking. Technically, it won't be breaking. So let's not. Yeah, let's go ahead and make it minor though, just in case. There's probably going to be some data that changes that could actually have a breaking change, and so we don't want to surprise the 0 users who are using this project other than myself. But good practices to keep in mind as you're just developing. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is this change set is going to be add colors H and I. Okay, so we can push this up, get it. Actually, I have a new GPU is just push -u origin is that alias, and we'll say add 2 colors. So I have like just aliases that I like to keep my typing on the command line super fast. That's what those are. So I'm going to just close all of this stuff. You don't need to see any of that. Should have probably, again, I'm not going to edit these videos. It's whatever. There's nothing, unless something like really weird happens, I'm not going to edit these videos. All right, so you get to see the full raw process as it unfolds, including all the sort of small errors in thought and judgment and all that good stuff. Okay, so we're going to add, instead of add 2 colors, let's say add colors H high. Add colors H and I. Yeah, add colors high. All right. So let's see now. We have that is now pushed up. What I was going to do next is make notes. So we're going to say, to do, right, is update docs, and then, whoops, update docs. And that's going to be like, the first one is colors page, right? And then we also saw borders page, right? And then that's going to also be shadows page. So colors, borders, shadows. Let's go take a look. So yeah, colors, obviously. Buttons was the one I forgot. So buttons, elements, no. Forms, no. Although in the future we do want to support colored forms. That's not there yet. Typography, nope. Turns out not. That's what colors are for. Borders, yes. Shading, no. So shading currently just deals with opacity and lightness and darkness. And then shadows, yes, I added that. And then layout, no. Okay, so we've got all of our doc pages that we know we want to update. And so we'll make sure before we merge this pull request that we go through all of those. So I'm just going to update that little reminder for myself and then come back to Moss and then run my development server. So we can go ahead now, go over to localhost. And then this is the system that we'll be working on. This is local. This is a bug in Vite or VS in SvelteKit perhaps, where I have to like refresh. Okay, so we're going to zoom out one more time. I'll need to fix this in a different library. You see how this is going off screen? That is definitely not desired. This should be keeping these on screen so you can see the content of that nav is somehow not staying within its container. And that, at first glance, I actually have no idea what's going on. This is position fixed, but then the content of the nav, you can see it's like, is that position absolute? Something about the nav is like positioning it strangely. And I'm not sure why, because if we look at its computed, it's probably not positioned, right? It's not. Yeah, I'm not sure why. It's display block. I'm just going to change it to flex. I'm just curious. Display flex. Nope, that didn't do it. So yeah, I'm not sure. Actually, let's change this. So display flex for you. No. Yeah, weird. You can just see, like, what I'm confused by is the padding on this element, right? And then its child, the nav, is just a block element. Like, they're both just blocks. Can turn that off. Now I'll take off fixed, and that did fix it. So something about how position fixed is like changing. I'll have to look into that later. Actually, that's something that I don't use position fix all that much. So this is a different library though. This is fuzz. Moss just uses it for documentation. So we will not worry about that today. And actually, it's really bugged in terms of I can't even zoom out enough. Yeah, there we go. Now, is that too far zoomed out? I think that's probably okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't tell if that's too small for you, the viewer, or not. It does fix over here. I'm gonna not zoom in. Yeah, I'll zoom in so you can just see. It's a little bit like over here. This should not be off screen. That's the whole point. And it's something I'll fix later. It's not. I'm gonna make a note of it though. We'll add it to our follow-ups. I always like to kind of track stuff like this over time. Normally I wouldn't do this. I'm doing that for the viewer's benefit, tracking this in somewhere you can watch me type. So I'm going to say fix the is that the, what do we call that? Is that the secondary? It's the secondary nav, right? Is that right? Actually, let me see here. It is no, it's the library. Yeah, wait. Library second. Yeah, it's the secondary nav for the library. That's right. Okay. Okay, so fix the secondary nav layout on small screens. Something to do with position fixed. Okay, so we'll come back to that another time. And so now what I'm going to do is take a look at where my variables are defined. So I'm going to go to my variables file. You can see here we have hues. So hues are actually composed by the color variables. So you can see we start with, and this is just at the very top, I just had colors at the very top of my variables file. Yeah, we don't need to worry about this to-dos today. So I'm going to add 2 more hues. We can do, just going to start add in code, right? H and I will be two new hues, and we can do then the, just adding that. So what we need to do is figure out what hues we want to use. So one thing that can be done here is, I think, this is just a offhand, I just kind of know this, but I think for orange, and we'll just go orange and then cyan. Orange is around 17. That's just like right above, might be 15 to 19, something around there. I'm just going with 17 for now. This is going to always be tweaked. That's one of the beauties of these CSS variables, is that you can just change the data and everything just kind of downstream just cleanly updates. We also generate some files from this stuff. So all super clean. This hue F, notice this is our brown. Notice that it's a very close in hue. The difference is we tweak the saturation and lightness quite a bit to get brown. But orange, we just are going to have as a completely separate color, even though they're very close in hue. And then here, we're going to call this one cyan. Cyan's going to be, let's just put it exactly between blue and green. We'll probably want to tweak that, but we can always tweak that later. So let's like I'm sure I'll notice or remember to do this, but basically like we want to do the midpoint between these. So that's like what, 90. So adding 45, that would be like, wait, is that right? Yeah, 90, adding 45. So like 165, let's say. It's just a rough, in midpoint between blue and green. It's likely that we don't want to have an exact midpoint. Part of that I think is because the green spectrum is quite large. So we just need to make sure that we're going to eyeball these. So notice this is very imprecise. I'm going to do a totally different pass for getting these colors way more consistently in terms of visuals and how the value, which is the lightness or darkness, appears to the human eye. I think I will also, when I do that work, switch over from using HSL, which is hue, saturation, lightness, to a new color, what are they called? What am I trying to say? Color space. I think they're called color spaces. So OKLCH is going to be lightness, chroma, hue, which is a different, easier to work with in some ways, more consistently mapping to our visual system so that, eyeballing numbers, like doing a midpoint, for example, I think, as far as I understand, will make that a lot better. Also, the consistency of, you'll notice as we look at some of these actual values, I'm just kind of eyeballing the lightness and darkness, and that will also be a lot easier to do with the LCH color space. It's OKLCH is the one I'll be using, I believe. So I did some research. That seems to be the one. There are problems with it, which is unfortunate, but it seems to be the best right now. So for now, we're just going to be working with HSL, which you might be familiar with. It's super common. It's a lot easier to work with programmatically like this than, say, RGB, although as we'll see in the docs, I can show you right now. In the docs, I kind of show what those colors actually map to. So here's the actual RGB. This is the HSL, and then this is the, I'm sorry, I'm hex, my bad. What I meant was hex, not RGB. This is hex, which is R, R are the first two, then G, and then B, right? These are the numerical RGBs, I was being confusing with my language. This is HSL. I actually will do something really fast. This was an oversight when I changed the system. I'm going to add, just search for this. So on our colors page, so if we go to colors page, we are going to look for like where RGB is, and color swatch, I think is what I'm looking for right here. I wanted to say HSL, open parens, close parens. All right, so that just styles this. So it's clear that now, I'm sorry we don't have these side by side. I might go ahead and do that since this is a very visual attempt at some work. Yeah, there. Now our menus collapse. We don't even have to worry about it being weirdly off screen. All right, so hopefully I'm going to zoom out once. Maybe that's too small. I'll keep it in. It might be a little bit annoying though, as some things are too wide for the screen. Because I go 100 character width. So yeah, there might be some bouncing around, which is even possibly worse. So maybe I'll shrink this down a little bit. We'll take you to the bottom. So I still have my console on screen, but it's way smaller. I will then move our VS Code over bigger, and then Moss on Chrome. Where did you go, Chrome? You went off screen or something. Where are you? Windows is hiding. Yeah, I don't even see it off in my other workspaces though. That's super weird. Where did Chrome go? Chrome. I'll close the window and reopen it. There it goes. That was super weird. I don't know where Chrome went. All right. Well, it's back. So what we're going to do is just like, yeah, give us a little bit more space to work with over here. Our colors still fit on screen mostly. You can see that like now it's it reformats the layout on small views. So I'm just going to tweak this a little bit so that we can still have enough stuff on screen. Yeah, I'm just not working with my screen real estate on these videos. So if this is too small, please let me know. I will do my best to improve my process with feedback. So if this text, I'm going to go with this text, just got to get moving. Let me know if that's not good. All right, so basically we added 2 new hues, and the question then is like, where is that data? So right here, we can say color name. So we have this color swatch thing. Where are you being used? My guess is like I have data. Yeah, so here we go. Over in our, we have, oh, actually this is interesting. So I have a data, variable data file where I have these color variants. So I actually had this in 2 different places. So let's remove this one, and we're going to import color variants instead. So color names becomes color variants, and then that got imported from our variable data, which is over here. And now from our variable data, and this is like having data in a canonical sort of form that can be reused across any sort of modules. Like for example, I'm importing this into the docs. It will also be useful when I start generating more of these things like on demand, a lot more like Tailwind JIT, just in time, which is also how Uno CSS works. So generating this stuff, driving it with data as much as possible is just a really sort of future forward way of looking at things to make it the most flexible. So I'm not hard coding values all over the place. If I add this one variant here, now we should be able to see it just kind of work as we import color variants over here. I'm gonna just refresh. Let's see if, yeah, so we have some sort of error. Let's see here. It can't find hue H. So it's just saying it can't find that variable. So I had in my variables, I never did actually export hue H and I down here. So I have a default variables set of variables that are exported from this module. It just didn't know how to include them. So now if I refresh the page, we'll probably get a different error. Cannot find variable color H1. So some of my docs were actually trying to do the colors as well based on the hue variables. So using this data, it's like looking for color variants as well. So far, we only added the hue variants. And you can just see it's like, hey, where's H1? Well, let's go add it. So we can start by like just copy pasting. I think I'm going to copy paste one that's like pretty standard. So some of these colors are fairly evenly distributed across the, like, so let's go look at Moss actually on the web. We can look at the colors page. And then what I'm looking at is, I'm going to zoom out once. What I'm looking at is like, yeah, like 50% saturation is kind of what I'm looking for. You can see blue is fairly consistent. Purple is like perfectly down the board because I didn't know what to do. So anytime we see like this means like I just really haven't paid much attention to these colors. Again, with the other color space LCH, this will be a lot easier to do in eyeball, I think, because it's supposed to be a perceptual color space, meaning maps to how our eyes actually perceive color. If you weren't aware, things like RGB, HSL do not map numbers wise. Like you can't just like add a percentage and get that percentage darkness. It's not quite the same as our eyes work. Okay, so what we're gonna do then is add copying the D. So what I found was like, okay, D looks like pretty generic, right? We start here and go down. I'm gonna start with color D1 and go to color D9 and just copy that, come down to the bottom of my colors here and just paste that twice. So now we have all of those. I'm now gonna change D to, every time we see underscore D, we're gonna change that first set of 9 to H, right? Oh, actually we want to do just underscore D. So capture the hue as well. So like this, there, now we're capturing the hue. And we're just going to change D to H, which is our first of the ones that we're going to change. So we do this, change it to H, and next, change this D. You can see TypeScript's giving me helpful errors, being like, hey, you're double declaring that value or variable name. So it's now going to be I. All right. So we now have super similar values. And now we're going to copy each one of these hues that we just added, these new colors for each hue, copy those variables, come down to where we export them just like we did with the hues, and then add them like this. Okay, so, and we're done. Okay, so now you can see our error went away. And actually, look, we have new stuff. It's obviously broken, but let's go down here. It's broken here as well. So the reason it's probably broken is, I don't know, actually, offhand. It's saying this hue. Oh, actually, let's try this. I do not currently have my generation files going by default. So, aha, look at that. It does work. So what just happened was we'll come back to this. I just noticed that obviously this looks brown, and that's a problem, but I know exactly what to do. Well, I think I do. What just happened was we generated a bunch of files. So actually, let's look at what we generated. Theme.css is a generated file. You can see this is what the file that generates it. And it's using our data that we have in that variables file and then generating the C for root. And then also for dark mode, we define different values for dark mode. That's what each of these segment dark values are. And the reason I have that is because dark mode colors look different. You don't, the darkness, it still scales from light to dark, from 1 to 9. It still scales from light to dark. But the difference is a lot of colors just might look good in light mode against a white background, look actually totally way too dark on dark mode, and vice versa. And so that's why this is part of built in with the variable system, is you just define light and dark variables, and then that will just kind of be automatically used in the themes. So this is the base theme, and you can see this. So it added all these variables that we now have. Notice that 1 and 9 are not actually here. And the reason for that is that for whatever reason, I decided those values right here, we can see right here, there's no dark one for that. It's just okay to use that same one. Now, is that always the right call? I don't know. That's something that I will revisit when I kind of do the pass on the actual colors themselves. But that's kind of a totally different sort of like part of the brain to task to versus what we're doing today. Today is really more programming within a style system, not kind of looking at colors and getting our designer parts of our brain. Okay, so what we're going to do is first, I'm going to just commit this code. So this looks, we already have now on screen, we have something that looks a little bit more cyan, a little bit off in hue, it looks like to me. And then we also have over here, we have a brownish. Now that's brownish. We don't want brownish. We actually want something way more orange. And so what we're going to do is just, and this is why I chose the 50% purple one, I'm just going to change every single one of these 50%, which is the H color, over to a higher saturation. That's what that 50% is, that middle value, because we're in hue, saturation, light. I'll just go high to 80%, and then I'm going to regenerate. So again, I don't have a watcher for this, and I'm sorry if you can't see everything. I'm trying to keep my head. The reason I have this green shirt on is so you can hopefully see my more of the screen and still get my head on screen. If not that you were necessarily asking for my head, but it seems like that's how I want to be doing this content, so you can see my actual reactions, and maybe it makes the content more interesting. If not, let me know. Maybe I don't always have to have my head on screen. Okay, so we regenerated, and now we can see that's a much more vibrant looking orange, right? Let's actually, maybe even not enough. Let's go up to 90. And actually there's one that I screwed up. So I'm gonna redo this slightly. Right here is the one I didn't want. So we'll redo that, change this back to 50. Yeah, change you back to 50. Okay, that's a lightness color, not a hue. One of the dangers of just kind of find replacing like I'm doing in VS Code. So I'm gonna change this from 80. Let's just go all the way up to 85. And then again, regenerate. And then we'll see it like a little bit more vibrant. color H5, you can see, doesn't look right to me. And looks like the reason for that is hue, saturation, lightness. We're in dark mode. Yeah, this should be like 60. Let's just go to 65. I don't know. It's a problem. I honestly don't know what to tell you right now. I think we're just gonna, so I darken this a lot. We can also then let's go to 63 and then take you down to 74. Pretty subtle tweaks, but this will get us a little bit more of a scale in there. And I'm not going to really worry about it today. I'm just kind of trying to stay moving. The colors themselves are not important, is what I'm saying. If we go over to light mode, which I have that handy selector there, you can see this is a nice dark, deep orange. So let's, it looks like on this page, we actually have what we're looking for. I probably want to put, well, maybe. I was going to say like the color name next to it. I think it's fine though, because this is confusing because this is brown, this is orange. You can see the hue is actually a lot more red because it's 17, not 27. It's closer to the red range for our actual orange. So I think I like that orange. We'll just stay at 17. Of course, I'm going to, like I said, probably tweak in the future. Let's now do the cyan. So let's get that hue right first. The hue for cyan definitely doesn't look cyan to me. So let's go more blue. And that's what I was saying. Green has just a very large perceptual space, I think, is how it works. So we want to go more blue, and it will actually kind of balance out overall. So let's go a little bit, probably past where we want to go. I'm going to reset, or regenerate my files rather. And now notice that this blue, the cyan, is still very distinguished from our other blue, and that's also pretty distinguished from our green. Let's pull it back to 175 and just see what that looks like. Again, this is not at all a scientific way of doing color values. I think let's go like 1. It's a little bit light. It's a little bit towards the green at this point. I'm going to go to 1. We said 1. We started at 185, went to 175. Let's just go 180 and call it done. I'm pretty sure that will be fine. Again, probably want to come back with some more designer-oriented tools to do a better pass on this, right? But the color space LCH, I think, will help with this quite a bit. Unless I'm mistaken, I think the hues are more of a good range there. So like a midpoint, I think, for example, would work better. I might be wrong on that, though. I might be completely wrong. Actually, this still looks a little strange, but I honestly couldn't tell you what I want to do with it. So maybe it's just the saturation at this point. Let's go a little bit more saturation. You can see our blues are all, the saturation ranges between 55 and 65. For our cyan, we actually are down in the 50 range. So let's go to our colors and change our saturation up to, let's say, from 50% to, just like we increased the saturation for our orange, let's go up to 65% and just see what that looks like. So I'm going to run that sync, and you can see now it's much more vibrant of a hue. Definitely makes it look, yeah, I couldn't tell you, like, let's just Google cyan hue. I'm just curious more than anything. Yeah, this is what, let's just look at the images. So like, does this look like my cyan? It's like, yeah, kinda. Right? Yeah, mostly, right? Here's the hex color. Actually, what is the hex color for cyan? Oh, wow, interesting. So like just 0 red and then full green and blue. So, yeah, that's interesting. If you look here, our cyan actually has a lot more red in it, unless I'm mistaken in how I'm doing that calculation, which seems a little strange. Yeah, I guess it's because it's, oh, I guess, wait, yeah. Right, okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I guess my question then is, we could go higher saturation, I think is what will make that. Let's see that. So if I go sync now, this is at like 2D. Yeah, so going higher saturation, like basically like it's saying it's full saturation. We're not gonna go, we don't wanna like be full saturation probably. And that's where we're kind of pulling it back from there. We don't want to be dull though. So I was at 65. Let's go to 70 and just probably park it there. I'll come back another time, but I'm just trying to eyeball it for today. Yeah, so that looks okay to me. It's not super saturated. I don't want to overly saturate. None of the other colors are right now. We went up to 85 for the orange, but I think cyan kind of stands out enough on its own at the moment. So we're going to go with that. It looks pretty good, like roughly speaking. Like I could open up, like yeah, that looks like. Whoops, didn't mean to close. Yeah, that's fine. I think we'll go ahead and settle on this for today. That it's definitely not blue and it's definitely not green. So that's kind of the goal for today. That's any more past that is kind of outside the scope of what we're trying to do today. Okay, so now that we have this, we have that, I'm going to go ahead and commit that code. We can now look at our colors page, and like I think it's done. Like this colors page is literally done. There's nothing more that needs to happen here today. Obviously, all these colors are going to be changing, but yeah, quinary. Let's see, quinary, like tertiary, quaternary, quinary. I was just giving names to these. What would come after quinary? It's like, is it sextary and septary? I don't know. Let's do it. Let's Google that. Quinary, and then what's next? Continue. Continue. Yeah, give me the next ones. AI. Google AI. I should probably open up. Hold on. Let's go to Claude. Claude's usually got a head on its shoulders. So I'm gonna ask Claude to continue this list, right? I'm gonna go back to VS Code. I need to like format. Actually, I can just go to Claude and paste it in. Claude does some weird stuff with text formatting, but like whatever. I'm gonna say, please continue this list. And actually, I'll stop at like, let's see, primary. Let's just say secondary. Yeah, okay. It's a little strange, but please continue this list. Please continue this list for a total of, let's say, yeah, 7 items is fine, because we only need 2. And I'm going to remove those 2. Can you go, Claude? Where are you going? There we go. Okay. There we go. Yeah, it's scenary. I'm going to ask ChatGPT as well. I just want to double check. So ChatGPT, I'm going to say, please continue this list. I'm going to just copy paste the same prompt. ChatGPT is not opening. I wonder, today there was a major event with CrowdStrike. 1,700 flights I heard were grounded or something. I don't know, delayed. I don't know. I wonder if Windows is having a bad day because of CrowdStrike. Incompetence is everywhere, folks, in tech. Don't let them pretend they know what they're doing. Never trust that they know what they're doing. You would be amazed at the incompetence that happens at levels that have way too much unaccountable power in the technology world that I've seen. Okay, so yeah, ChatGPT is not having a good time. Let's ask Google the same question. Where's your AI now, Google? You didn't give me the AI. Okay, so I'm gonna do it in Copilot. Is Copilot working? Let's do this. Yeah. Okay. Good. You finished my comment. And then quaternary. Okay. And then quinary. Yep. Yeah. Centenary. Okay. And then septenary. Is that the exact same thing that Claude said? It is. Okay. All right. So we'll go with that. These are just 2 words that, whatever. It's just for documentation purposes. We might add handles to these later. I don't know. But the idea is that like let's see, where's quinary used? Quinary. Just in my docs page, I don't have any data around it. This might be something that I add as a, like a, some data, like attached to the variables, like variables can have comments. Maybe that's something that I should add, and then we can just kind of render it. I'm not going to worry about it. Actually, all of that as a to do, maybe add this to the variable data as comments. Okay. So we now see we have this. It's a little bit confusing because success and help and error danger are not secondary or tertiary, right? We skip to and then go to, then this is just like a convention, right? You have your primary color on the web. It's totally arbitrary. And then from the primary color, we have a success or help color, which is often the case, error or danger, which is often, almost always needed in apps. And then we just go with secondary, tertiary, etc., all the way up to septenary, which is, our cyan that we added. So our colors page, to me, looks complete. So I think we can just kind of say it's done. We can go back to our list and our to-do list that we're going to do. We now have our colors page. I'm going to chop that off the list. So now let's go look at buttons. So I can go back to here or click on the menu, go to buttons, and notice that it just doesn't have those out yet. So let's go ahead and see if we can improve that code in our buttons page. So page and buttons here. What we can do is, are we generating this in a list somewhere? And it looks like we probably are, because I don't see a ton of content there. Let me think. Oh, yep, here we go. We had color names again. Actually, is this anywhere else? This color names thing should not exist. No, so that was the only place we did it. We want to use that same data that we used before down here, and that's color variance, and that's going to be imported from variable data. So now, if we refresh, we can see that it's going to be broken. Yep, I expected that because we have not added the classes to handle this stuff yet. So I'm going to go to style class or style utilities, and we're going to look at button. Oh, no, I remember we saw earlier it's in the reset. So reset, style reset, this button color thing totally needs to be generated probably in the future. But for now, we can just copy paste this twice and go like this. This is going to be H, and then this is going to be I. Okay. You can also see this is like error prone and weird. So I'm going to add 2 here, color H and I. We probably want to search everywhere that colors are used like this. Yeah, so here, this is going to be super error prone if I don't search everywhere. So we're adding H and I, right? So I'm looking at every place in this file that G is being used and making sure, so here's 2 spots. So this is going to be .color H and .color I. I don't even have to look at what it is. I just know that these need to be added to that list. It actually just changes the text color, and it uses a single selector rather than hard coding it for each. Maybe that's actually not what we want to do. Maybe this should just be part of these button right here. So that you can see this is just kind of like a way to get a single declaration. I'm just going to change this. So to do, maybe remove this selector and just move this value, just copy this value for each button below. So leaving lots of little to-dos, this is how I often work, because these are choices that I want to flag to maybe change in the future. It's a little bit complicated. Well, no, so that actually doesn't make sense because we want to say hover focus active. So that actually would not work like I wanted to. So I'm going to remove what I just said. This actually needs to be there because of this. I thought it was, when I glanced at it, I thought it was just this section, but it actually does hover focus active as well. So no need to change that. Now if we look at our color G, let's just see, we should see variance for H and I as well every time this shows up. There it is, there that is, and we're back to where we started. So style reset's looking good. Let's go over to style animations, nothing, definitely not there. Let's go here, color G, nothing there, and then style utilities, I know for sure there's going to be some utilities that we need to change. So this just allows you to have the color G as a class that then sets the color value, color property, CSS property. So I'm going to make 2 copies of that, and then I'm going to change each of these to use H and I. So first we'll do H, This is style utility that we're updating. And then I as well. I'm going to have to do a comprehensive search for like color G to see where it's used and make sure that every time we're referencing this like list of colors, and every time we see that, that's like, okay, that's a sign we could be generating this data from, or generating the styles from data. That's something that's been on my to-do list, but totally out of scope for today. Which is often how I work, right? I know what I need to get to in the future, but we just got to kind of focus on what's in front of us, lest we go down rabbit holes and then we're days into a single pull request and there's no end in sight. It's just not a good way to work for the most part for me. Like often though, big features, yes, that will be how things work. Sometimes for weeks, a single pull request will be open. But for things like this, they can be logically isolated, done in isolation, finished, complete, tested, etc. You can be sure that you kind of covered all your cases, and then you can move on to bigger things. So just kind of mentally bookmarking some work for the future. This, you can see here, this BG is another example of where we need to do the same exact thing. So we just need to copy two of these over. We have G, which is going to be H and I. So let's change H first, right? Like this. And so that's going to be H. And then this next one's going to be I. Okay. So that's going to be done. And we will look again in the same file for other things we need to do. Double check that we did this. We did H and I there. We did H and I here. We're now going to look at the color. This like underscore G is probably the best way to search, right? So now we found another. These are going to be shadows. So instead of showing, actually, I'll show you shadows first. Yeah, why not? So you can see what we're dealing with. So shadows down here have like colored shadows. So again, this is like generating a lot of styles. We probably want to do like a on-demand generation thing, kind of like what Uno CSS would give us. So that's why this is like, and you can see H and I are actually showing up now because we're using that data-driven thing, but there's no styles there because we have not added these classes. So I'm going to add those classes right now. We can see this G, actually there's 3 different variants. You have regular, outset, and inset shadows. That's what's going on here. So we're going to copy each one of these G shadows over to H and I. All right. So again, change this G to H. Make sure I don't go too far. Right there. That's H. And then this is going to be I. Oh, wait, I didn't do inset. Whoops. Yeah, I stopped too soon. H, and then I is going to be starting here and to the end. Okay. So this is going to be, shadows should be working once we regenerate our style files. So I'm going to grow sync, and then we'll see it kind of update over here. It has an error, which doesn't surprise me. Let's see what it's saying. It's a little bit hard to read. Let me go there. All right. It's saying can't find variable shadow H. Okay, so we actually didn't add our variables yet for this stuff, which makes sense. We will finish up what we're doing in this file. So I'm not going to like get the file work or the website working between each one of these changes. That's typically like good if you don't really know what you're doing. But for now, I mostly kind of know what I'm doing or trying to go for here. So I'm just going to make sure that I am looking throughout this whole file. And every place we have this underscore G reference, we also now have H and I variants, which now it looks like we do. So there's only 3 spots in this entire file that's happening. And so we can save. We can now go to our variables. And then this is where we actually want to look at like underscore G as well. So here's our shadow color, right? So we can just add a new shadow color. And that's going to be H. And then the next one's going to be I. And then that's good. We need to make sure we add those to our exports, H, and actually have tests. If I forget to export something, the test will actually fail. So that's a nice little convenience to make sure that I don't make weird mistakes. I can come down here. We're still having an error, but it might be because of generation. So let's run our code generation scripts again. Sorry for screen real estate. It's just hard to do when you're streaming. I don't know the right answers here. Okay, we still have an error. Let's see what it's saying. It's saying cannot find shadow HXS. So I didn't add, let's see, underscore G. All right, so let's see. Here we have shadows. So we didn't actually add our shadow variables. We just added the shadow colors, which are used by shadow variables. Now, is that the right design to have these colors? I think I have to-dos. Yeah. I think a lot of these to-dos, maybe these shadow colors shouldn't exist. Maybe they should be hard coded, because what they're doing is it allows you to like change those shadow color once though. So I kind of like it. And it uses does it use the shadow hue? Let's see. Shadow color. Yeah, it just uses like the same one here, which is color H7, right? And then color H7 we can see uses like hue. So it's all, you can just kind of change hue and get everything kind of cascade for you, which is really nice. We have a few more things in here, like fill G. Actually, yeah, let's go ahead and do those now. I couldn't even tell you exactly what those are because I have an idea obviously because they say fill, but not sure exactly. But I know I need them, right? Anytime we see that underscore G, we know that we're dealing with something like that. Border color, same thing here. So we're going to add H and I border colors. So we can go up to U and then add 2 more of U. Again, a lot of this stuff should be data-driven, not manually created like this, but that's something for another time. Anytime you see this much repetition, that's like a sign. It's like, oh, what happens if we could just like make that data-driven? So you just update a value one place instead of having sources of truth scattered everywhere. That's not always the right answer, but it often can be. And always, like, I ask myself, would that be a better design rather than needing to manually sync all this? In this case, though, we're dealing with things that are fairly fixed. And so I'm not sure if that's actually worthwhile in the long run to sort of like break things apart into these like more sort of data-driven, flexible things, because there's costs to everything, including flexibility. All right, so this G thing now, you can see I actually separate these by a new line just to be clear. So we're going to start here at shadow G, and then we'll make 2 more copies of this 1 and 2, go up to the top here, and then all of these with G are going to be changed to H. Going to do all of them here. All right, and that's going to be the end of it. So that's H. And then now we have this set of G's is going to be I. And we're getting close to where we'll have probably working code again. So H and I are now good. We need to make sure we export these variables, which did I do that with fill? I believe I did. I'm going to just kind of copy them all like this. And we're almost to the end. Okay, copy these down. We're going to just kind of take a shortcut, go to where you're being used. And all right. We are now exporting our shadows. Oh, and hey, look, our stuff just started working over there again. So it looks like I want to probably look at other places like underscore G is being used in this file. So let's go ahead and do that. Here's our shadows. We just did these, so we can skip past this group. What's next? Hues, we know we did that. Yep. We did colors, right? We have H and I there. We did fill, H and I there. We did border color. We did shadow color. And we did shadows. So I think we're back where we started, right? Yep. Okay. So it looks pretty good. I think we are looking like now it's just a matter of cleaning up the docs, making sure that there are no missing oversights. So there's our shadow A, which is, you can see, a very sort of light blue, which is actually kind of hard to see on the dark mode. Yeah, because a regular shadow, if you look at that, that actually looks blue now. So this shadow compared to this shadow, you can see this one's way more desaturated than this one. There's just blue there. Green, again, these are going to change. All these colors are not perceptually sort of like where I want them to be, but it's a lot of sort of like detailed work to get that right, and we'll probably want to use a different color space. So, okay, notice that our shadows are not working. So that's something to fix. Oh, I just needed to refresh. So this is what cyan looks like, and that's what orange looks like. Neither of these look particularly good to me, but I'm actually fine with it. They don't look like browns. They look a little bit more orange than browns. So probably by upping the saturation of our colors is the answer. So I'm actually going to just go from like 85. I did like 85% to like, let's change it to 90%, just to get like quite a lot of H is going to be very sort of orangey. And then our 70%, we can up that to say 75. That's our cyan. Okay, let's do that. And then reset. Okay, so let's take a look at our shadows page. Do we have everything on our shadows page working? Notice I have these like notes everywhere. This is unfinished and will change. Moss is super early. Don't use this unless you're willing to keep up with a lot of changes. I will document those in the changelog, but I think it's too early to really use this thing unless you're willing to put in quite a lot of effort to keep up, which I think at this point it's still too early, but don't let me stop you. If you want to, I would hesitate though to encourage you to use this unless you're going to be updating it. If you're going to not want to update, I would not use any of my software because there will be major changes and there's a lot of sort of unfinished stuff kind of scattered around. My main project, Z's, is a social app framework. I'll talk more about that in other videos, but that's one that's driving everything else. That's where I think I'm going to try to look for funding from my users. Things like the CSS framework are still very important, but they're not going to butter my bread, right? That's not where my livelihood's going to come from, is the CSS framework. So anyway, back to, I think what we do is we have a full shadows page working. So let's go back to our notes and remove our shadows from that list. So let's go look at our buttons. All right, buttons page, buttons. We have some buttons. These will change, by the way. The filled colors are not how this will work. I'm going to swap selected and filled just because this is way too much heaviness, unless I think selected should actually be the heavy one. So anyway, small change, but big visual impact, but small. I'll do a separate video. I think my second video for Moss is going to be me swapping why this is like dark and filled is going to be swapped with like selected. So selected will be filled, but normal colored buttons will not be so bright. You'll have to like either add selected or filled to those buttons to make them so bright. Okay, so buttons look good. I mean, we have our cyan. There's nothing down there. We have our cyan and orange, right? But see how different the orange and brown look because of our saturation mainly. It's not really because of the hue. The hues are pretty darn close. The saturation is completely different, and that's what makes it really look orange. The lightnesses and darknesses are also tweaked for the brown to get them a little bit more visually correct. So that's how that works. So buttons look good. Let's knock that one off the list as well. I'm just gonna leave that open because I expect borders as well are either working or like very close to working. Yeah, so there's our border colors. It's orange. You can see it's very different than our borders for brown. And okay, so I'm gonna do, that's it. I'm gonna do one last thing. I'm going to actually follow up. Let's add like, update all the colors, probably using OKLCH. Okay, and let's go to light mode. So yes, that looks orange, cyan. Let's go over to the buttons and we still have orange and cyan. You can see this is a little bit too bright to me, but yeah, that's too bright. I'm gonna tweak the colors ever so slightly. No, I'm not. Actually, I'm not. Actually, yeah, I will. Sorry. Let's go a little bit towards, so you see like this is 50, that's 70. Let's just bias this. Kind of going to do like something relatively even across the whole. I'm going to bias the light version 50% towards the dark version. So this becomes 84. This becomes 76, right? Or 70. It's either 76 or 77. Let's go to 76. Say on the lower end. This is going to be, that's plus 14. So this is going to be 69. This is going to be 60 now. This is going to be plus 12. So 52. This is going to be 35. This is going to be 22, and that can stay the same. Okay, so watch this, what happens. Watch our color is, I went the wrong direction, didn't I? I did. Okay. Good to undo everything I just did. All right. It's the opposite. I see now. Yeah. I was just thinking backwards. So I'm going to do 50% the opposite direction, I think. Or do I even need to go further than that? Let's just go 50%. So this becomes 80, right? I don't want to do like a full, yeah, I don't want to do a full. This becomes -4, so 68. This becomes -7, so 55. This becomes -10, so 40. That will have a nice change. That's really the one that I wanted to change. This one is going to be -7, so 33. This is going to be 25, and then this is going to be 18. Okay, so it's a roughly balanced, again, totally eyeballed and quick and dirty, just getting it work. This is now darker. This cyan is now a little bit darker than what we had previously, so it's easier to read the stuff. Yeah, that's a lot easier to. It's not quite so light. It's not great. You know, yellow's another hard one to get because it's such a bright color. It's hard to get that dark enough to where it's legible at the same value as the other colors, but it's just how it is. All right, so I'm gonna commit this code. I'm gonna run our sync again. Notice we added quite a few lines of code because we are not generating these styles on demand. We're pre-generating all of our styles, so our style file changed quite a lot. I'm gonna look, I think, one more time. I think I changed like all of my, I did look through reset at all _G stuff, right? So if we look at _G stuff, we do see variance. We should expect to see, yeah, I did all this already. So we see H&I variance. I'm just trying to make sure I don't miss anything in terms of, I don't want any surprises. All of these, right, should have H&I variance where we see them, or where we see _G. So that's that. Style utilities as well. Oh, I found one that's not. Okay, hues, we did not add the hue variant. That was a definite good catch. This is going to be H. This is going to be I. Okay, good catch. I think it's because I searched for _G_, but I should have just searched for _G, which might have some false positives, but that's okay. So here we have H and I like we expected. Yep, that's all of those. Background, I did the same. Yep, we're good there. Down to our border colors. I missed this one for the same exact reason. So change this to H. Glad I'm doing this. And I also just thought of, I need to change the docs. So as soon as I get done with this file, I need to change some of the docs. So shadow G now has shadow H and I. Good. This is column gap. That's a false positive. The style file is not used at all. The theme file is also generated from this variables. We should make sure we see that though, just to double check. H and I. Yep. Fill H and I. Just this. The test will actually catch this stuff, so I don't need to worry about this. But I just was going to click through for completion's sake. Yep. H and I appears there. Our variables as well. Let's go look here. So we have hue. Yep. Good. Colors. Yes. Where are we now? Shadows. Yep. It's a little bit hard to see all this stuff. Borders. There's just a lot of stuff on screen. I'm just kind of scanning quickly. You know, I think we checked our docs pages, and that's really the most important thing, to make sure everything's kind of tightly packed together. We have all of our exports. Yep, we're good. And then there, we're good. So the last thing I need to do is come here, wherever we had like A-G. We're going to change that to A-I. So that was what I mentioned about on our docs page. All of these are just the simple, quickest thing I could think of to document which CSS classes we support. And now we just needed to make sure that range doesn't go from A to G anymore. It goes from A to I. All right. So, and I can show you where that appears. That was we saw at the beginning of the video here, utility classes, right? Color now goes from, actually, sorry, not color BG, but color here, and then BG. Color A to I, BG A to I. All right. So I think I am close to finishing. Let me think. I can't think of anything else. I'm going to close my watcher, and we're going to run the tests locally. We will also, on our CI, see that our tests are passing. Interesting. I never had a failing set of tests because I always remember to export, because I guess the watcher wasn't running. So I never committed code that was broken on this run. So yeah, I think we're basically done. I think what I'm going to do is go back to our main branch, delete the old, I'm going to just give this a moment. Actually, I take that back because this is just changing that page, right? Yeah. This is not going to be broken. So I'm going to merge it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm almost positive that's going to work because I did it locally. I'm now going to, I already deleted the branch. I'm going to pull that down and then say grow deploy. Actually, no, we have I'm going to say grow release. What that's going to do is it's actually going to publish the new version, bump the minor. So we're now going to be on version 0.9 of Moss. If we look up at the top here, this is going to be bumped in just a moment. And I'm going to zoom in now. You can see better. Okay, so you can see the version got bumped. It's going to run all the checks and build, and then you can see it's publishing to NPM. It's now published to NPM, and now it's going to deploy to the web. So in just a moment, we'll actually be able to go back to where we started, go to, it's going to take just a moment, but we're going to go to moss.my website. We can go over to the library, look at the colors, and notice right here, we're still in the old one. In just a sec, when the Moss deploy branch goes green from yellow, we'll know we can call it quits. This was what we did, like really kind of quick overview of how Moss works. It was like a lot of fun to kind of refresh myself on all the different pieces, right? We had colors, we had borders, right? Right over here. We had buttons right here. We have shadows over here. So these are kind of the different places the colors are used in the styling system right now. And you don't have to do anything special. If you just use a button, you can just get button styling in Moss. You can then add like color A, and you'll get a blue button, and so forth. You can also just like add a lot of these variables are used both in the CSS as well as they can be used as utility classes. But the variables are kind of always the starting point. So I'm going to refresh the page, and I bet we'll see it. Yep, and there we go. We now have orange and cyan. So that's it. We now have new colors in Moss. Stay tuned for more. We're going to, in the next video, like I said, where I think we're going to go ahead and we're going to follow up and add some new stuff around the buttons being selected. Like we're going to restyle these buttons from like filled to not filled in the normal sort of colored button sense. And you can fill them if you want, but I think this is like visually too heavy right now. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.